There are 5 elements you should never miss when you're working on B2B sales. If you miss any of these, you're not just leaking money, but you're losing a whale lot of prospects just like an open drain. Now, imagine if you're filling a bathtub while keeping the drain open. What happens? Do you think the bathtub is ever going to be full of water? No, right? That's exactly what happens when you keep filling your sales pipeline but do not have these 5 essentials in check. Hi, I am Saranya Narayana Moorthy. I am a B2B high-ticket sales consultant and a marketing strategist, and I help B2B entrepreneurs to establish a sales system, generate leads for them, transition into the high-ticket segment, and acquire customers, all of these without hiring a sales team. So now, let us see what are the 5 elements that you most certainly should master before you fill up your sales pipeline. Number 1. How your prospects get to know you. Now, the impressions your prospects form when they discover you either makes or breaks the next course of action. Now, imagine someone discovers you either through the social media platforms or through event or through a webinar or however it is. Now, the first impression they make when they see you is how they will remember you. Imagine having a perfect SEO but a totally collapsed profile. Thousands of people come in to see you, and once they see, they simply go back to searching for the next person. Pretty big loss, right? Do you think that's something you want? For 1,000 people to come in just to look at you and move to the next person? Listen, be it your website or your social media profiles, it is essential to give the right positioning. When I mean the right positioning, I don't mean to say give an expensive aesthetic makeover or a superb visual branding or so on. Have clarity on what you do, who you help, what prospects would get when they work with you. Why should someone choose you instead of choosing anyone out there? And most essentially, what do you help them accomplish? How do you help them do that? And what effort are you reducing from them? If they have to put the same effort with every person they hire and get a similar result, then you are not the right person to choose for them, right? So give your own unique proposition, create your own positioning, and do all of these right when they form the first impression. That is, in every social profile of yours. The first impression decides whether they buy from you or they move to the next person. So ensure that image that they create is worth it. Now, number 2, brand recall. There is a marketing rule of 7 which says a prospect should see you at least 7 times before they make a purchase. Now, this is not true for every purchase that you make, but for certain high ticket investments especially, they should be very much convinced that you are the right person. And for that, the marketing rule of 7 actually works. Now, think of it this way. What happens when you speak to a prospect? You really charm them in your sales call, but after that, they forget about you. What is your strategy for an efficient brand recall? Now, here's something that I recommend. Every time you speak to a prospect, ensure that you are always on top of their mind for the subject that you spoke on. Now, for example, few months back, I spoke to a prospect who was looking for B2B high-ticket lead generation. For some of their internal reason, they chose not to go with us. But a few weeks later, I got 3 referrals from just that one prospect who did not sign up with me because they really loved the approach, they loved the solution, and they loved the way in which we gave it to them. Now, if you see here, even though the prospect did not go ahead with us, they recommended 3 other business owners in their circle, and when they worked with us and told them how wonderful it is, later on, the same proposition, they did come back to us for a consultation. Now, why do you think all of this happened? Because the first time when I spoke to that person about B2B lead generation, he remembered that I am someone who helps with this. And the next time when he spoke to anyone about the same topic, my brand and my name was something he remembered. Now, this is an efficient brand recall strategy. So, how do you accomplish this brand recall strategy? Simple. I would suggest just this. The rule of 7 really works. So, put it across multiple places. For example, every time you speak to a prospect, do 3 times of private nurture. When I mean private nurture, it's either through email or through WhatsApp, wherein you get in touch with them, follow up with them, and ask them when they are ready to take the next course of action. Number 2, retargeting. It is extremely ideal to do a retargeting advertisement for your prospect. Now, retargeting is done when you have a sufficient subset of people who are in your list. So, if you have lesser number of prospects, retargeting ad is something that you cannot consider. But choose a brand awareness campaign which runs just for this. And number 3, and the most important one, either give them a call or ensure that they see you consistently. Now, how do they see you consistently? Now, all the while doing all of this nurture and everything, having a continuous exposure to your brand is something that really helps. So this brings me to the next point. Number 3, which is having a continuous exposure. Now, what do I mean by having a continuous exposure? Okay, the first time when they see you, they form an impression, right? And then they go ahead, they search the internet, they see a lot of things and then they forget about it. It happens continuously. But how many times, how many people do a person in a business speak with? The numbers are huge, right? And every time they speak with the people, it's not that they remember everyone. But some people really stand out, and the ones that they remember are someone whom they see continuously, whom they keep in touch with consistency. Now, think of it in another way. How often do people consume stuff from you? Okay, you have an amazing influence in a sales call, but the influence in a sales call isn't long lasting, right? People forget about you after a sleep or maybe two. So in this case, how do you keep them anchored? And that is through social content, or in other words, content marketing. Let's say this YouTube video that you're seeing reinforces that I am someone who works in the B2B space from you. Imagine tomorrow you're reading one of my blogs. In the next day you see one of my Instagram reel, or the day after you see a tweet from me, and then you get a newsletter. Now, continuously you're getting a piece of content from me which you're consuming, which you think is of high value, and you're learning from it. Because if you're not learning, you wouldn't have been this far into it, right? So when you're seeing this, there is an anchor that's going on in your mind. Now imagine what if you can create the same anchor to your customers. Now that is something that you can accomplish through content, and when you do it, the whole trajectory and the whole impression prospects have about you shifts in your favor. Now, once you do all of these, once you do the external aesthetic, and once you create your public presence, this is where the next step comes in, which is number 4, your approach. How you approach a problem or how you approach a prospect's business plays a major role on why they choose to work with you. Now, though they speak to almost a lot of B2B companies, only a certain companies showcase a lot of methodologies or strategies that are unique, tailor-made, and actually is relatable with the person in front of you. Now, another reason, know your audience really well. Because only when you know your audience, you will be able to be more relatable, create more compelling storylines, and have a clear roadmap for them. So when you understand your audience and then create an approach that caters specifically to them, they feel heard, they feel as if you know their problems and you can serve them better. This especially works in the B2B segment if you use it right. And number 5, and the most important one, your signature system. Though this comes at the last, this is not something that you should definitely disregard. So when you have a signature system or your own methodology of doing things, which comes as a result of experience in the field, of doing something continuously over and over again and then refining your process, you are able to confirm to your client that this is something that you did, this is a result, and this is a repeatable framework that consistently works. So create your signature system. Maybe in another video, I'll go in detail about how to create a signature system. But every time you have something that's your proprietary framework that definitely gives result, that is an acknowledgement that you can create something and you're capable of doing something that will transform your client's experience. So, ensure that these 5 elements are already in place and you're working through it before you fill up your sales pipeline. Because though all of these might seem like a luxury to you at this moment, if you have these, the chances of converting your prospects are way too higher. Now imagine if you get 10 prospects in and if you're able to convert 5 to 6 versus how you're getting in 100 leads and out of it you're able to convert 10 or 12. Now, the conversion rate is not just a measure of how optimal your sales process is, but also a clear indicator of the ROI of your efforts. So, ensure to have higher ROI for the efforts you put in so that you reduce your overheads and increase the profitability of your company. Now, with that being said, if you need any support with respect to B2B marketing, sales, content, building your business, and with respect to training your employees, do reach out to me at saranya.n@lion.digital. And with that being said, subscribe to this channel to learn more about B2B sales and marketing. I'll see you in the next video.